So this is the Can of Kid, and I am
Ride show?
Rideshare Radio.
I thought you said ride show radio.
Rideshare Radio.
Ride share.
Okay, on Facebook, disregard the comments. This is the Can of Kid, and it is me, Jerome McPherson Asterson.
Jerome, is that you?
That's right. All right. So this is a new thing we're doing. It's a pilot episode of Rideshare Radio, where we talk about. What do we talk about?
We're gonna talk about all of our weird ass experiences being Uber drivers. Because in the free time, when me and Frankenstein aren't facilitating Can Crew stuff, we do ride sharing.
Right. We're Uber drivers, so fuck around, find out.
Fuck around, find out.
So everyone always asks what the crazy stories are. We're gonna sit here and we're gonna give you the crazy stories, and we may have other people come on.
Also, if you get in our car, please give me 5 stars. And if you don't give me 5 stars, at least let me know, so I know who it was, you motherfucker. I'm just joking.
Well, okay, so I got all 5 stars so far.
What?
Wing 250. Let's do a check right here, right now.
Oh, fuck. I got to about 200 and something in the lows before I got my first 1 star. So that's what I will say.
At this point, I have 254.
Well, you're a better driver than me.
I tend to only drive. You like to drive during the day.
I will say
don't.
this. My first 1 star was given to me, and they said, I quote, I picked them up in an unsafe location. So all I have to say is, Uber tells me where to pick you guys up.
About that?
No, not unless you like call or text or to tell me like specific spot to pick you up. Other than that, I gotta go where the map tells me.
Yeah, it's hard to know like what is
right
unsafe.
I guess that's a good tip, for a passenger. Always double check with your Uber driver that's on his way to make.
That's
right.
I don't know where you're going.
I had. I guess we'll go straight into the stories. I had one lady. I can't remember the street, right? But it's a main street, and it runs through multiple cities, right? Because in Arizona we got a grid system, and a lot of what we considered main streets run through multiple cities and towns, and I was on Southern, and it was like a generic numbers, like 14th or 49th or something like that. And I'm at the intersection, and it's like a barren intersection with like a medical complex, and that nobody's fine. And I'm there, and I'm on the phone with the lady, and she's like, "Are you on the corner of Southern, blah blah blah?" And I'm like, "Lady, I am stopped here, like in the intersection." I was like, "There's a medical complex right here," and she's like, "No, there isn't." And I'm like, I'm a man. I can assure you, you know what I'm saying. And she's trying to tell me that the information I'm telling her is wrong. Right. That she's trying to, basically like I'm lying to her, and I'm not listening to the information that she's trying to give me.
Okay.
Like I'm trying to say, I'm on this street and this street, and these are the things that are here, and I'm like, ma'am, I'm on this street and this street, the same exact street, but the description of the street that you're giving isn't correct, And then he was like, because she was like, I'm here and there's police everywhere, and I was like, and she was like, and I'm in, Phoenix, and I'm like, well, I can let you know right now that I'm in Mesa, like we're both on the right streets, and the streets are the same name, but we're in different cities, Yeah. And I had to, get her to cancel the ride and stuff, but also, that's a trip. It's like he is convinced wrong.
Yeah.
I'm trying my best
to not be rude.
Right. And also try to figure out
what the hell's going on. That.
What about you? Because I got a fair amount of stories. I was helping one, like I just picked up one lady from the grocery store, right?
Yeah.
And she only had like 2 or 3 bags, and we put it in the back, and in the back of my car, I had one of my seat covers bundled up in a ball because I didn't want to use it the other seats, right?
Okay.
And so we grabbed the 3 bags out, and I have an automatic tailgate, right?
Okay.
And I'm like, oh, I got all the bags. And then I hit the tailgate, and she's like, oh, wait, I have another bag in there. And she puts her head in my tailgate. As it's automatically lowering down, it gets trapped in there. Like, oh God.
Oh, it doesn't have like a sensor?
No, it does not. And I had to like fucking click this shit, and look like chick was like, oh, she's like, there's another bag in there, and I grabbed out my seat cover, and I was like, I was like, ma'am, I tried to tell you, like, I have all your bags right here.
You already got it covered,
right? And then I guess I'll explain the most recent trip, because that was fucking trip and a half, and I'll give like the whole perspective, I guess, from touch and go, like before I picked the guy up, kind of deal.
Right.
They give like a big, like the whole context,
the whole enchilada, baby.
Right. And
that's what we want.
Kind of like, why did this happen? Where did this come from?
Yeah.
Kind of deal. So, earlier that night, I dropped off one patron, and some of these patrons are really genuine, and give you certain tips. And
tips are nice.
And tips are very nice. And so out here in our state, we're a legal state.
For weed.
For recreational, for cannabis. And it was a late shift, and the homie hooked it up with some nuggage.
Okay, some nuggage.
And I was like, fucking, hey, I was like, this is nice. It's towards the end of my shift,
Yeah.
And then, and I'm stuck in like bumfuck Egypt, because the algorithm that usually helps me get rides back home isn't working.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of like hovering around this fucking shitty ass town until the things start functioning again,
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh man, I got the nuggage and everything. I was like, all right, I'm just gonna grab one more ride, and I'm gonna just bite the bullet and pay for the gas. Just drive home, you know?
Yeah.
And so I get some blunts and I get some blunts and you know, as I'm getting out of the gas station, I get a pink kind of deal for a ride. And I'm like, all right, you know?
Yeah.
And so I sit there and I go and I pick the gentleman up, you know? And so I was actually so when I got the blunts, you know, because I split it, you know, and then I was gonna roll it and then let that dry for me driving home type, you know? And then so what had happened is I had split the blunt and I got the ping and I had the shell, like the empty gutted shell in
Yeah.
my hand.
Right.
And I was driving around and I just picked the homie up, you know. We're all sitting there bantering and everything and I was like, "Hey, you know, like you're like my last guy of the night, you know, this one dude sometime before you hooked it up with some nuggets and everything. So I was gonna, you know,
Yeah.
you know, try to roll up here for when I get home and everything. And we're cruising. And keep in mind, this gentleman's like 10 minutes away from us, you know. And then we're 3 minutes into the ride, and he's like, "Oh, I got the spins. You need the pull.
I feel sick.
Right, I feel sick. You need to pull over immediately, you know?"
Right.
And so I pull over to the side and we're like right on the turn lane to try to get onto a major fucking freeway type deal. And it's like 3 a.m. in the morning and he's like, man, I feel really sick. I think I'm gonna throw up.
Right.
And I was like, no problem, dude. Like, I ain't gonna leave you. Just like do your thing, you know? And then he's kind of like coming back to the window periodically and being like, "Hey, are you sure you don't need to go anywhere or anything like that?" And I'm like, "Hey, like, it's the fucking middle of the night. You're my last ride of the night. Like, I'm not gonna fucking leave you out in the middle of nowhere, 3 a.m. type deal." And so this goes on for like 20, 30 minutes kind of deal. And I'm like, oh, like, fuck yeah. I roll up the blunt, you know, and I start beefing on it, everything.
Okay.
And so, and then also keep in mind for the conversation, you know, I'm pulled over, the vehicle is off, you know, I've been on the side of the road for an excess of a half hour waiting for this passenger to you know, feel better, you know, so I'm acting in a, you know, a civilian capacity at this point, I guess I would say, you know, because like, hey, fuck it, if I'm gonna be here feeling like I was gonna, because like I would have been home already, kind of,
Right.
you know. So I was like, fuck it, I'll just take the smoke break now, kind of deal, you know. And so he's keeping coming back to the window like, hey, are you sure you don't need to go anywhere? I'm still not feeling good, you know. And I'm like, hey, you know, I just started smoking this blunt, you know, like like homie, like if you're sick, like feel better, you know, like it's
Take your time at this point.
fucking take your time, you know.
Yeah.
Like I've already been here for this long, I would have already left,
Yeah.
you know. And so we were there.
How far was it to his house?
We were 7 minutes from his house.
7 minutes. You were
So-
about to get on the freeway?
No, he wasn't even on the freeway, so I don't even know why.
You were about to cross it.
Right, we were about ready to go under the freeway.
Got it.
So like, yeah, and
So
and then so we're sitting there, and I finished smoking the blunt. We're still kind of chilling there, then I see a squad car get off the freeway,
Okay.
and I'm thinking in my head, like, all right, like we've already been on the side of the road for X amount of time, like I have my hazard lights off, like it's fucking 4 a.m. in the morning now at this point. Like the homie's just checking out the scene, right?
Facts.
And then so as the squad car is pulling up, I hop out of my car and I'm like, hey, like I'm an Uber driver. One of my patrons was drinking a little bit too much,
Got sick, got out of the car.
Was getting sick and got out of the vehicle,
Yeah.
And then the guy's like, okay. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, my passenger comes out of the rocks, right?
Yeah.
And not sick, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, I wasn't sick the entire time. I lied to you, And I was like, what? And then he was like, this guy, this is my Uber driver, and he was driving around with me in the vehicle while smoking weed.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? I was like, that's crazy.
So he went up there and called the cops.
Right. And because I was like, look, officer, I definitely smoked a blunt. That's 100% not denying that,
Yeah.
But I was like, that was only after I've been sitting on the road for a fucking half hour.
Yeah.
Because I was under the impression that this guy was sick,
Yeah.
So I was like, I definitely took a smoke break because I thought I was gonna be here for an allotted time.
Yeah.
Because I was here for an exuberant amount of time. Because I was again under the impression that this gentleman
he tricked you.
Was sick, Yeah, the guy tricked me.
Like, what's wrong with this guy?
Right. and then he was like, no, this guy was smoking weed while driving me around and endangering me, and I have videos to prove it.
Oh shit.
And I'm all like, like cool, like show like the videos, but like that's not at all what occurred. And because I was like, again, I smoked a blunt, but it was only after we had pulled over and we had been waiting here for an extended period of time.
Yeah.
And so I took a smoke break,
Yeah.
And so the officer looked at the footage and he's like, look, I can't prove that you were driving around with him in the vehicle while smoking. He's like, I can't prove that you were endangering him or anything like that. Like there's nothing I can do, you know? And then the gentleman was like, what do you mean you're not going to do anything? And he's like, yeah, well, no, like according to all the evidence and everything, like they're like, no, I can't.
He was just gonna like what, take him home and then you go home?
I can't do anything. Right. Like we're gonna go our ways.
Yeah.
But the officer was like, well, but because you admitted to smoking a blunt, like you're gonna have to figure out something about your vehicle,
Yeah.
And I was like, no problem. I can get somebody to pick me up and I can get somebody to take the vehicle.
Yeah.
No problem. I'll handle that right now.
Right.
And the guy was like, that's unacceptable. You're going to have to call your supervisor.
Yeah. He wanted you to burn.
Yeah, he wanted me to burn type deal. And then he was like, so you're insisting that I contact my supervisors right now? And he's like, that's exactly what I'm telling you to do. And he was like, all right, I'll radio it in, And because like, and then the gentleman kind of comes up to me, and he shouldn't have been driving around with passengers while smoking marijuana, And I was like, sir, I wasn't, like no cannabis smoking took place until we pulled over and stopped the vehicle, And apparently you faked your illness, and if you hadn't have done that,
I just dropped you
I
off.
would have just dropped you off, and I
Fucking,
would have
yeah,
smoked
an
weed
hour
at
ago.
home, and we would have all been home, you know. And he was like, "You're a liar. I don't know why you have to lie to me," you know. Yeah. And I was like, and then at that point, I just stopped talking to him, you know. And then the one supervisors came, and they brought him to the back, and they're looking over the footage and stuff, and we're just, you know, chit chatting about the weather and stuff. Like,
Oh,
it was fucking freezing nuts.
it was super cold.
It was beyond cold. Like, this guy is just a grade A dick stain.
So then what?
You know? I told the cops that I already contacted AAA to tow my car, and that I had a friend to come pick me up, kind of deal. And then they were just like, "Yeah, we'll just wait here with you until the vehicle's off the roads, so nobody hits it," you know.
Yeah.
And then the one guy was like, and so during the whole process, when the one guy was in the car, or not in the car, when the cops came and everything, because like I went into the car and I grabbed my phone, and
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? And then I was like, "Hey, look, like he's no longer a patron. Like we're both private citizens."
I'm gonna kick his ass.
Kind of deal, you know. And then he's like, "He's got drugs in his car," type deal, you know.
Oh shit.
And then he was like, the cop was like, "You can't prove that," you know. And he's like, "Yes, I can. I'll go get it." And then the cop straight up was like, "You touch his fucking car, I will arrest you for trespass."
Waste my time, you motherfucker.
Straight up.
Yeah.
And then so the cop was like, "So do you mind if I search your car at all?" And I was like, "Officer, I very much do mind." Because I was like, I was like, I'm already being inconvenienced, you know. Like I've been 100% honest with you. Like there's nothing he's been able to provide that's proven that I've been dishonest or unlawful, you know. And then he was like, "All right, well, I'll just do like a walk around, you know," because he was like, "There's nothing that gives me any kind of probable cause to get into your,
Yeah.
you know." So I'll just do the walk around and everything. And he did the walk around. And then the officer asked me, he's like, "Well, was the car idling while you were smoking in the car?" Kind of deal. And then I was like, "Well, because I was like, nah, man." I was like, "I've been on the fucking side of the road for an hour. Like, I'm not like
idling for an hour."
Right? You have any idea how much gas costs? You know?
Yeah.
And then the guy was like, "He was listening to music the entire time." And I was like, I looked to him, I was like, "You are aware that you can listen to music in your vehicle without it being turned over?"
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Using the engine.
Right. And the guy just looked absolutely flabbergasted, right? And then the police officer was like, "Well, you know, when I pulled up behind your vehicle, I noticed there wasn't any, you know, smoke coming out of your tailpipe, you know, so it's not like you like turned off the vehicle out here."
Right, right.
So everything seems
checks out.
Right.
Yeah.
You know? And so fucking, yeah, homie
he was upset,
beside himself, because he thought he had me crucified. You know.
So then you call me,
right? And then I call you.
I was in Scottsdale and I had people, and they're in the car, and 3 drunk dudes from the casino trying to get home at 3 a.m. It's a short ride because I was getting the quests, right? So it's all about volume. I was raking in those fucking 10-minute drives, and they're like, it's a call from Gilbert. I'm like, I'm not gonna answer it. I'm driving people, and homie's in the front seat, and he's like, "You're not gonna answer that?" He's like, "It's from your friend named Gilbert." He's like, "Oh, if he's named Gilbert and he's calling you right now, he's up to some shenanigans." we need to call Gilbert back right now. It's like, okay. We call Gilbert back, and the first thing he says is, "Hey, can one of your passengers drive my car?" And none of these dudes fucking stopped a minute. They're just like, "No." It was funny, but then like they were looking up your address while we were driving.
Right.
Yeah.
Coordination is. And also, you gotta have that one friend you can call at 3, 4 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah, I was 40 minutes away. But I pulled up and I filmed them. And the dude was out there standing there. I saw he got in the back of the cop car. And so I asked him, I said, "Hey," he said, "Oh, did the crackhead get arrested?" And they're like, "No, we're just going to."
So, yeah, that was
Then you got AAA and just went home with AAA.
This is what I suggest. Also, if you're an Uber driver that drives your own vehicle, get AAA Premier, because no matter what happens, they will tell you wherever you.
Yeah, like you didn't spend any gas getting home.
Yeah. Oh, that was the whole thing too. Because remember at the beginning of the story, I was just gonna bite the bullet and pay for the gas and drive home after the last drive. So the silver lining is I threw that car in a fucking tow truck and I had AAA pay for my gas. Bitches.
And he gave you a 1-star.
A motherfucker gave me a 1-star. Said I did illegal traffic activity or something like that. Although I would say the police officer that arrived on the scene agreed that no.
That wasn't the case. That
Yeah.
wasn't the case. The case closed too. It's just all good with Uber, all good with the cops.
Right. And I will say, as it's concerned, and if there's anything to pick out and to be said about or anything or to comment about is, I was in the wrong for taking the smoke break, although I was pulled over and everything, because, but also, I was acting in, I was acting as a civilian, I started acting like,
yeah.
And I was just thinking like, what would I do if one of my homies was sick on the side of the road?
Yeah.
I'd fucking roll up a blunt and take a chief session, and hopefully he starts feeling better sooner than later.
Yeah, probably offer it to him,
right? And then I was gonna offer it to him, but I rolled it in a tobacco.
Maybe that was his beef. He wanted to smoke, and he's like, "You motherfucker!" Oh yeah, no, he's only smoked White House.
I only do those Optimos, bitches.
Right on. All right.
Yeah,
that's a good story. That's what happened. There's a meme about it.
Find the meme.
It's not hard to find.
Yeah, and they categorized it as shit post.
Find the meme. All right. And I think that's good. I think that's Rideshare Radio. Fucking pilot notes. I got a note. Are we looking at ourselves or at the screen?
I don't know. I kept looking down.
Yeah, or like this. Hunched up. I felt like I was trying to like to the side for you or something.
So we need to configure.
Yeah, because look at our. It's on the screen. All right. So that's a thing. Maybe I was thinking if we kind of this, we could Zach Galifianakis it.
Oh yeah.
And
maybe we can do with the mic.
In mics. Well, we'll bust out the better mics too. Don't have to be all fucking all up in this shit for you to understand where we're coming from,
brothers.
Oh yeah. All right. Well, that's the last episode.
First.
It's over.
That's done.
Done. Put a fork in that one. All right. We out this piece. Thanks
Till-
for watching.
Till
listening.
the next time.
Adios. Always
Peace
remember, ride, share.